The auction serves as an expansive system enabling the trading of items within the tower. However, this intricate system wasn't a natural occurrence within the tower. It was crafted by a singular individual, Gold Lich. Internally, Gold Lich harbors concerns that the exposure of this truth could undermine the very foundation of his Gold Lich enterprise. With a fiery glare, Gold Lich interrogates Jin Huk, inquiring about the source of the information that implicated him as the auction's owner. Jin Huk, donning a smirk, playfully reveals that it was merely a ruse devoid of any concrete origin. Unsatisfied with Jin Huk's response, Gold Lich forges a substantial golden lebreeze, brandishing it menacingly while questioning if the loss of an arm and leg wouldn't severely hinder Jin Huk. As Gold Lich launches his assault, Vulcan materializes and delivers a powerful punch, shattering the formidable lays into fragments. Gold Lich's eyes widen in astonishment as he comprehends that Jin Huk has employed a soul soldier. Maintaining some distance from Jin Huk, Gold Lich astutely observes that only a spirit master possesses the capability to wield soul soldiers, prompting him to inquire how Jin Huk has acquired this skill. Jin Huk removes his mask, revealing a wide grin as he addresses Gold Lich by his true name, Creditor William. Acknowledging Jin Huk, Gold Lich queries how he is still alive. Jin Huk proceeds to recount the events of the raid on the 600th floor, the betrayal by the 9-star, Bale's bestowed gift, and his subsequent resurrection. Gold Lich is left deep in thought hearing this narrative for the first time, while Vulcan regards Jin Huk with newfound interest. Gold Lich then conveys his disbelief in standing before the person he thought was Cha Jin Huk. Jin Huk counters by affirming that his identity remains unchanged, albeit with a dash of surprise. Gold Lich subsequently inquires about Jin Huk's motives, to which Jin Huk responds by expressing his need for financial assistance from the Gold Lich Company. He proposes a sponsorship-type contract. Gold Lich, however, asserts that Jin Huk shouldn't speak of the company as if it were his own. Jin Huk rebuts this by emphasizing his significant contributions, highlighting his role as a founding contributor and the largest shareholder of the Gold Lich Company. Noting Jin Huk's assertiveness, Gold Lich remarks that he finally perceives the true Jin Huk. In their conversation, Jin Huk humorously quips that he is indeed the genuine Jin Huk. Gold Lich then underscores the necessity for reciprocity, even if Jin Huk is without a doubt the authentic Jin Huk, emphasizing that a contract requires both parties to contribute. Jin Huk proceeds to offer valuable insights he's deduced from the wealth of information he's collected and synthesized over time. Gold Lich, intrigued, agrees but mentions that the price will be determined after hearing Jin Huk's revelations. With a focused demeanor, Jin Huk begins by revealing the 9-star's sinister plan to undermine him. He posits that this implies the existence of a mastermind orchestrating the scheme, given the strong-willed nature of the siblings, making them unlikely to cooperate unless commanded by a power higher than them. That higher authority, he asserts, can only be the tower's 4 monarchs. Gold Lich is visibly astounded and asks Jin Huk to pause, inquiring if he is referring to the tower's 4 royalties. Jin Huk confirms this and explains that the 4 royalties are driven by the desire to preserve the dominance of their respective species.
With other species ascending the tower, which has emerged as a realm from another world, their influence diminishes.
As a result, they aim to reach the tower summit or eliminate potential threats that could challenge their supremacy. Those who partake in the struggle stand to become rulers of their respective floors. Gold Lich queries if this is the extent of Jin Huk's deductions, especially since Jin Huk was the primary victim in this situation. Jin Huk reveals that the Oni village on the 100th floor possesses this knowledge. He further adds that he is aware of the sole survivor of that catastrophic event, a young Oni girl named Haru. The scene transitions to Haru, decapitating an orc. She inwardly laments that it's still insufficient to defeat the orc boss. She must significantly augment her strength. Her struggles with the 10th floor boss challenge weigh heavily on her mind. Inwardly, she resolves that to reunite with Jin Huk, she must undergo a substantial transformation. Suddenly, her sword queries why she's groaning when she simply needs to utilize its power. The sword suggests that dispatching the orc boss would be effortless with its assistance. However, Haru declines, citing her promise to Jin Huk not to wield the Dragon Slayer's sword's might. She firmly asserts her commitment to growing stronger on her own, and requests the sword not to engage her in conversation. Gold Lich then voices his puzzlement. During that fierce conflict, the Oni dispatched only a young child and a sword. Jin Huk confirms that Haru and the sword are indeed the targets. He elaborates that to eliminate a single young Oni, they decimated the entire species. In essence, they're handicapping themselves. Inwardly, Gold Lich acknowledges the implausibility, but recognizes that it would explain everything. Jin Huk rises and declares his motive as revenge. He vows to obliterate everyone, including the 9-star, the supporters of the 4 royalties, and the 4 royalties who murdered Gold Lich's family. With his newfound trust in Jin Huk, Gold Lich channels power from the outside world. Just then, Bal arrives inquiring about Jin Huk and Gold Lich's discussion. The 9-tailed fox chimes in with an unrelated remark, irritating Jin Huk, who snaps at them to be quiet and not disrupt the atmosphere. Gold Lich, finally accepting Jin Huk's offer, expresses his willingness to provide Jin Huk with his insights. Still somewhat skeptical, he challenges Jin Huk to prove that he is truly Cha Jin Huk. At this moment, Jin Huk lets out a weary sigh and questions whether he truly lacked trust to this extent. He inquires of Gold Lich whether such an extreme measure is necessary. Gold Lich responds by emphasizing his role as a merchant, where trust holds immense value and is not something he can afford to take lightly. Jin-Huk finds this rather irksome, prompting him to reach out to Bao for a character reference. Jin-Huk proposes a handshake, but Bao, still hesitant, requests not one but 3 handshakes as a condition for vouching for him. Jin-Huk agrees and completes the handshakes, with his title Peak of All Evil on the line. Bao vouches for Jin-Huk. Gold Lich, compelled by this display of trust, offers his hand for a handshake and expresses his willingness to believe Jin-Huk. As their hands meet, Jin-Huk wastes no time in presenting his initial request to his sponsor. Gold Lich accepts and assures him that if it's something purchasable, he'll acquire it promptly. Jin-Huk, resolute in his purpose, reveals his need for an extensive array of weapons suitable for use within the tower, along with plenty of spares. Gold Lich, puzzled, questions Jin-Huk's motives, reminding him that he's a spirit master and asking if he's going to start a war on the 10th floor. Jin-Huk grins and inquires whether Gold Lich is familiar with the term All-Master, showcasing his status window as evidence. Upon seeing the All-Master class designation, Gold Lich is left dumbfounded, realizing the significance of Jin-Huk's newfound strength. Jin-Huk proceeds to explain that the All-Master class, as the name implies, enhances all of his stats, even for weapons he's never wielded before. It imparts a profound sense of familiarity, as if he has years of experience with each weapon. Inwardly, Gold Lich acknowledges that while Jin-Huk may be currently weaker due to reincarnation, his potential has skyrocketed. Gold Lich decides that his priority should be to exponentially increase Jin-Huk's potential and promptly summons Puppet. Puppet enters, inquiring if their conversation has concluded. Gold Lich then tasks Puppet with procuring and gathering all the weapons available on the 10th floor, discreetly using various company names to avoid suspicion. Presenting his golden card, Gold Lich instructs Puppet to label the weapons as VIP. After some time, Puppet returns holding a single piece of clothing. This leaves Jin-Huk perplexed, as he had expected a much larger assortment of weaponry. Puppet informs Jin-Huk that all the weapons he requested are actually stored inside the coat. Initially perplexed, Jin-Huk's confusion dissipates as Gold Lich grins and reveals the coat's true nature, a subspace coat. This remarkable coat possesses a lining that connects to a subspace capable of storing as many inanimate objects as a large storage room could. Furthermore, its temperature, size, and color are adjustable at the user's will, and it's enchanted with protective magic. Gold Lich emphasizes that this item is exceptionally rare within the tower and advises Jin-Huk to use it with care. With his newfound drip, Jin-Huk playfully suggests that Gold Lich should also exercise caution, given Jin-Huk's ambitious spending habits. The scene transitions to a portal opening, and Kim, along with his 2 companions, emerges from it, barely clinging to life. One of them, in blue, notes that since they challenged the boss as a party, they didn't earn any achievements but survived thanks to Kim's support item. The one in orange laments that they've exhausted all their resources before reaching the 10th floor and questions how they'll continue their climb. Kim, wearing a joyful expression, reassures them by mentioning the White Swallow Guild's presence on the 10th floor, suggesting they'll find support there. However, his thoughts secretly turn to Jin-Huk, now identified as Ghostface. He clenches his teeth in anger and vows to make Jin-Huk pay for the humiliation and threats. Returning to a cheerful demeanor, Kim informs his companions that they're about to enter the bloody revenge battle. Upon arrival, they are shocked to discover the building in ruins. Night falls, and they learn that other guild members have evacuated to the 30th floor. With limited skills and resources, they ask Kim for guidance, realizing the challenge of reaching the 30th floor under these circumstances. As Kim remains silent, the man in blue prompts him to say something, while the man in orange expresses their trust in Kim, highlighting that aside from his guild affiliation, he's nothing special. Internally, Kim seethes with frustration, considering his companions useless. He contemplates using this opportunity to rid himself of them, believing they wouldn't have passed the 10th floor without his help. Suddenly, their attention is drawn to a trembling and whimpering baby fox on the street. Kim, irritated by their lack of food to offer, scolds the fox when it dares to lick his foot. Frustration boils over, and Kim cruelly kicks the defenseless creature, causing it to cry out in pain. In a moment of cruelty, Kim vents his own stress by relentlessly kicking the fox while cursing his misfortune and lamenting that everything in his life seems to go wrong. Then a glimmer of light appears in a dark alley, and in a flash, Kim's foot is severed by a swift knife strike, leaving him bewildered. Menacingly, Jin-Huk commands him to cease his brutality, warning that it will take time to tend to the injured fox. Kim, racked with pain, pleads for the stranger's identity, but Jin-Huk ominously proclaims that he's about to become the owner of the very fox Kim callously mistreated. A few moments earlier, Jin-Huk strolled through the streets alongside Vulcan. Jin-Huk mentioned they had one final destination in mind, the Tower of Class Advancement to harness spirit power. Vulcan, inquisitive, inquired about the purpose as Jin-Huk was already a spirit master. Jin-Huk explained that his class advancement was akin to becoming an all-master and regaining memories from his previous life, although he had yet to acquire spirit power through cultivation. Vulcan pondered the idea. Jin-Huk suggested they take a break from spending the Golden Lich's wealth tonight. Suddenly, a notification alerted them that the nine-tailed fox had detected something. Bao pointed in a specific direction, prompting Jin-Huk to look. As they gazed in that direction, the nine-tailed fox fell silent, leaving Jin-Huk curious. She eventually requested his assistance, revealing that her baby was in peril. Bringing us to the present moment, Jin-Huk was taken aback by the unexpected encounter with the offspring of the mystical nine-tailed fox in such an unlikely place. The nine-tailed fox also presented him with a quest to rescue the baby fox, a disciple of the neutral god and herself. After the rescue, she asked Jin-Huk to care for the fox, promising a reward, an item that would increase his rapport with her. The first reward would be granted upon the rescue, and the second after the fox's recovery. Internally, Jin-Huk considered this an unforeseen stroke of luck. Kim, recognizing the distinctive mark on Jin-Huk's attire, identified the one who had severed his leg as Ghostface. Jin-Huk, casting a critical gaze upon Kim, questioned where he had encountered Kim before. Enraged, Kim accused Jin-Huk of provoking him in this manner and ordered his two companions to attack. As they lunged at Jin-Huk, he vanished from his position, leaving them bewildered. They frantically inquired about his whereabouts until they spotted Jin-Huk sprinting while cradling the baby fox. Jin-Huk then confronted Kim, asking if he had intentionally harmed the fox, emphasizing its significance as his last ounce of good fortune. Struggling to rise, Kim asked why it mattered, threatening to sever Jin-Huk's leg in the same manner. Jin-Huk turned to the nine-tailed fox for guidance on how to deal with Kim and his companions. Without hesitation, the nine-tailed fox urged Jin-Huk to eliminate them. Kim swiftly instructed his companions to encircle Jin-Huk, preventing any escape. Unperturbed, Jin-Huk casually tossed Kim's severed leg back to him, baffling Kim. In that very moment, Jin-Huk unleashed the Skill Corpse explosion, detonating the leg and swiftly ending the trio's lives. Back at their dwelling, Jin-Huk contemplated giving the fox a name, as continually referring to it as the baby fox was impractical. He considered abbreviating its name but realized that box didn't sit well with the fox. Vulcan and the nine-tailed fox concurred, foreseeing potential consequences when the fox grew up. Jin-Huk sought Vulcan's suggestion for a better name. With enthusiasm, Vulcan proposed Horang, combining Ho meaning fox and Rang meaning bright. However, Jin-Huk and the two foxes didn't seem pleased with the choice. Given that it was a two-tailed fox, Jin-Huk decided to name it Miho. Its full name, Lee Miho, signified two-tailed fox in Korean. Vulcan playfully questioned if Miho, being a picky fox, was content with the name. Miho's expression indicated its acceptance. A system notification then declared that the partial quest had been fulfilled, and Jin-Huk had saved the nine-tailed fox's offspring, Miho, bestowing a reward. An energy ball manifested above Miho's head, forming a fox mask. This mask granted the user access to the fox's abilities, its strength increasing in tandem with the owner's power. Holding it, Jin-Huk compared it to his Oni mask, internally recognizing the allure of the charm skill for detaining opponents. However, the nine-tailed fox reminded him that the quest was ongoing and emphasized the need to restore Miho's vitality. A second quest materialized, requiring Jin-Huk to feed Miho 999 fresh raw livers to aid in its recovery. The reward for this endeavor would be an increase in friendship with the nine-tailed fox. Jin-Huk realized that obtaining 999 fresh livers personally would be quite a task, but he accepted it, acknowledging the value of the mask and understanding that there was no other choice. Wearing a sly grin and aware of the benefits of gaining favor, Jin-Huk expressed his anticipation for what lay ahead. With everything in order, Vulcan mentioned his intention to go for a leisurely walk. As Vulcan made his exit, Jin-Huk instructed him that when dawn broke, they would head to the Tower of Class Advancement. He emphasized that if Vulcan believed he might be running late, he should proceed directly to the tower. Vulcan soared above the city, noting the stark contrast it presented compared to his earlier ascent of the tower. However, an unsettling feeling washed over him. Recognizing the sensation, Vulcan sought refuge behind a building, observing the people passing by. It wasn't long before he spotted a dragon, unmistakable due to its horns and the savage mana emanating from the creature. The dragon let out a sigh, and wearing a menacing expression, declared its intent to exterminate all dragons. Vulcan was left in shock, acknowledging that dragons were known for their narcissism and the way they often portrayed familial love. They were the proudest among the four royalties. The notion of a dragon vowing to eradicate its own kin was utterly unbelievable. With a deep sense of concern, Vulcan expressed his worry that the dragons would soon come to the 10th floor. One girl whispers to her friend, "Look, that dragon is perched in that spot again." Her friend acknowledges, noting that the dragon has maintained its position for several days. The other girl adds, "And it's muttering gibberish that makes no sense." For a few days, Vulcan mutters, perplexed. Internally, he questions why the dragons have taken no action. Suddenly, the dragon's gaze locks onto Vulcan, sparking nervousness as he wonders whether the dragon has sensed his manner. The dragon identifies Vulcan as the insignificant ghost play-acting. Awkwardly, Vulcan takes offense at this description and jumps to confront the dragon menacingly. He declares that the dragon, unaware of his true strength, should grasp the extent of his power. Vulcan even taunts the dragon as a young dragon. This enrages the dragon, who clenches his teeth in anger, demanding to know how Vulcan dares to call him a dragon and if he wishes to face death. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the 10th floor, Jin-Huk approaches the Tower of Class Change. He mutters his frustration, cursing Vulcan for not returning and wondering why Vulcan hasn't responded to his telepathic messages. Jin-Huk opens the door to the tower only to find it deserted. His attention shifts to a voice introducing itself. The man with disheveled hair and a mark on his forehead warmly welcomes Jin-Huk and introduces himself as Ken, the climber responsible for the Tower of Class Change. Jin-Huk remarks on the desolation, and Ken explains that few people on the 10th floor awaken their mana. It's practically a ghost town. Jin-Huk comments and expresses his desire to use the Necromancer's room and asks Ken if it's possible. Ken agrees but requests proof of Jin-Huk's awakened mana by having him infuse a crystal orb with mana. Jin-Huk inquires if he needs to channel the mana into it, and Ken confirms. Jin-Huk places his hand on the orb and begins to infuse it with his dark and mesmerizing purple mana. The power is so overwhelming that Ken can't believe it. He wonders how a 10th floor climber possesses such potent mana. The orb becomes so saturated that it starts to crack and eventually shatters into numerous pieces. Ken's astonishment at the shattered crystal orb was so profound that he tumbled to the floor, unable to comprehend what had just transpired. Unperturbed, Jin-Huk casually inquired about the location of the Necromancer's room. Meanwhile, Vulcan engaged in a fierce battle with the dragon, his struggle evident. Internally, he fretted about not being with Jin-Huk, limiting his mana and soul resources. Sporting a sinister grin, the dragon taunted Vulcan, questioning how long he intended to hide behind souls and urging him to face the fight head-on. A bystander recognized the dragon's distinctive horns, confirming that he was indeed a dragon, a statement that infuriated the dragon. He turned towards the bystander, angrily demanding they be quiet and questioning who they were calling a dragon. The bystanders fled in fear. Observing this, Vulcan concluded that the man was unquestionably a dragon, but reacted sensitively to the term. It was as if his body and soul had been separated, prompting Vulcan to wonder if such a phenomenon was possible. Suddenly, Vulcan recalled that a similar occurrence had befallen Jin-Huk. His fascination brimming, he summoned a soul soldier and transformed it into a weapon, leaving the dragon astounded. Vulcan declared his intention to investigate the substance within the dragon's body and unleashed a soul laser, narrowly missing the dragon, whose coat bore the brunt of the attack. The dragon acknowledged Vulcan's strength, admitting that he was no mere ghost. Vulcan then employed spirit power, a magical technique that consumed souls as if they were mana, a skill even Jin-Huk couldn't wield. Yet Vulcan confidently asserted that he was Vulcan, the first spirit master, and would make sure the dragon regretted picking a fight, all while launching an assault. As the dragon dodged, he sarcastically asked if they were introducing themselves now. Appearing beside Vulcan to clash weapons, the dragon identified himself as Hendrik the Dragon Slayer, declaring that he was the human who would send Vulcan to Nirvana. A dragon slayer? Vulcan repeated, pondering how a potent soul like that ended up within a dragon's body. Hendrik unleashed his attack, the flowing dragon ride, forcing both combatants to create some distance. Vulcan realized his earlier carelessness, having underestimated Hendrik as a young dragon. If indeed there was a dragon slayer's soul within the dragon's body, and they were a climber of the 7,800th floor, Vulcan understood that even with Jin-Huk's arrival, victory against Hendrik was far from guaranteed. With agility, Vulcan evaded Hendrik's attack and launched a counter-offensive, but Hendrik scoffed, questioning whether Vulcan truly believed he would fall for the same trick again. Just as Hendrik was about to evade, Vulcan utilized Soulbind to seize Hendrik, rendering him immobile. Vulcan then unleashed a massive attack, directing it at Hendrik. However, Hendrik countered with his own technique, 10,000 slashes, slicing through the spirit arms that held him. Suddenly, Hendrik's attention shifted to a colossal spirit hand hurtling towards him. This attack, Soulbind Giant, was executed by Vulcan and was of colossal proportions. It struck right where Hendrik stood, causing significant damage to the surroundings and the village. After that intense battle, Vulcan breathed a sigh of relief. It had been a close fight, and he'd exhausted all the mana and souls Jin-Huk had temporarily provided. Surveying the damage, Vulcan observed that the dragon wouldn't be able to move for some time, giving him the chance to escape. However, a few seconds later, a crack appeared on the giant shadow hand, and the dragon broke free from its grasp. He breathed heavily, called Vulcan's name, and then burst into boisterous laughter. He vowed to personally slice Vulcan into pieces the next time they met, raising his sword as a solemn oath. Meanwhile, Jin-Huk conversed with the yellow-haired man about the numerous rooms in the area. The man noted the diversity of magic paths and couldn't help but wonder about Jin-Huk, a 10th floor climber, who even a 35th floor climber couldn't contend with. Recalling the man's name, Ken, Jin-Huk admitted that he was an alright mage and a useful guide. As they reached their destination, Ken introduced it as the Necromancer's room. Jin-Huk observed the reagent corpses and books, noting that it was a room that necromancers dream of. Ken assured Jin-Huk that if he needed anything, he he should let him know, to which Jin-Huk replied, "Sure." As Jin-Huk began to prepare, Vulcan suddenly appeared, startling the small fox. Jin-Huk inquired about Vulcan's whereabouts, and Vulcan reassured him, explaining that he had been a bit rough during his morning exercise. Vulcan noted that it seemed Jin-Huk was about to get started. Jin-Huk confirmed, and with a snap of his fingers, he commanded his spirit soldiers to get to work. They engaged in various tasks, some taking books, others drawing magic circles, and a few lighting candles. After all the preparations, Jin-Huk settled in the middle of the circle, surrounded by books and candles in a meditation pose. Miho, the small fox, noticed Jin-Huk closing his eyes and wondered what was happening, but Vulcan picked her up and suggested they stand back for now. Jin-Huk addressed Vulcan, saying that this might be his last command, and asked Vulcan to protect his body until he woke up. With a wicked grin, Vulcan warned Jin-Huk to be careful because if he died, he'd take over his body. Suddenly, as Jin-Huk initiated the ritual, a ghost appeared and gazed at him before entering inside his chest, startling Miho. Vulcan assured Miho that everything was going well, and explained that spirit power was a unique quality of a necromancer mage, allowing them to use souls as if they were mana. The quickest way to awaken one's spirit power was to be in a soul state, meaning they needed to die once. Vulcan keenly observed the change and realized that Jin-Huk had entered the soul world. A voice rang out, proclaiming ownership of Jin-Huk's body. Countless green souls materialized, all vying to seize Jin-Huk's body to gain a chance at life once more. Witnessing the chaos, Vulcan rallied his soul soldiers and instructed them to defend their master from the deceased souls. He summoned additional spirit soldiers to confront the green souls. Suddenly, Ken entered the necromancer's room, bewildered by the commotion. He couldn't help but clutch his head and exclaim in frustration at the pandemonium. Vulcan, trying to regain control, asked Ken if he was a manager there and requested his assistance. Meanwhile, Miho trembled in terror, hiding behind some books. However, she noticed a green soul about to attack Jin-Huk. Just as the green soul lunged, Ken noticed the impending danger and alerted Vulcan. In a state of panic, Vulcan urgently implored Jin-Huk to regain control because his body was on the verge of being stolen. Suddenly, Miho leapt between Jin-Huk and the green ghost. She unleashed an attack, her body emitting a pink and black glow, appearing as if she was struggling but determined to save her savior Jin-Huk. The whole crowd was left in awe by Miho's actions, leaving the green ghosts bewildered and questioning the source of the dazzling light. Upon closer inspection, their eyes formed heart shapes as they found Miho irresistibly charming, and they fell to the floor, overwhelmed by her cuteness. Even Vulcan, his spirit soldiers, and Ken weren't immune to Miho's enchanting skill. Back to his senses, Vulcan quickly snapped Ken out of his daze. Inwardly, Vulcan speculated that this skill might be a form of charm, one that not only controlled desires but also snared souls. He considered that Miho's divine heritage might make her different. Suddenly, a towering green spirit appeared, clearly agitated by the commotion. Spotting Jin-Huk, he remarked on the chaos. Vulcan nervously identified this giant spirit as a named, signifying he was a strong climber when he was alive. Vulcan understood the danger if he possessed Jin-Huk's body. As the spirit eyed it hungrily, the giant spirit's interest in Jin-Huk's body was unsettling. Vulcan realized he needed to intervene, but was still under the influence of Miho's charm. He urgently implored her to stop the giant green spirit. In response, the spirit told Miho to move aside, showing no interest in her. Undeterred, Miho leapt at the spirit, preparing to use her powers. However, as she unleashed her abilities, she felt drained, leaving Vulcan to question if that was her limit. The massive spirit raised his sword, prepared to strike Miho. She braced herself for the impact. Unexpectedly, Jin-Huk raised his finger and unleashed a dark aura beam at the spirit, astonishing Vulcan. Jin-Huk thanked Miho and pointed at the spirit, calling him a bastard. The spirit screamed in terror as Jin-Huk's attack damaged his spirit form. Jin-Huk declared that even as a ghost, the giant spirit would serve as a powerful bullet. Absorbing the smaller green ghost that was unconscious on the floor, the giant spirit confronted Jin-Huk, but he responded with a menacing glare and unleashed a barrage of dark purple energy bullets using his skill 10-fingered soul bullet, obliterating the spirit and the wall behind the spirit. Vulcan marveled at Jin-Huk's ability to gather spirit power on his fingertips and deliver such a devastating attack. Observing the aftermath and the destroyed wall, Jin-Huk removed his mask and casually responded to Vulcan, acknowledging that the attack wasn't too shabby. Sometime later, Puppet arrived at the scene and was taken aback by the chaos. He asked what it took to turn the tower into such a mess. Jin-Huk briefly explained that it was a long story, and then inquired about the purpose of Puppet's visit. Puppet explained that he came to deliver items to Jin-Huk. Among the requested items were deadly poisons of varying potencies, a firestone filled with fire energy, and a frost stone containing ice energy. Vulcan remarked that Puppet was faster than expected. Jin-Huk questioned why Puppet was giving him these items when they were meant for raids on floors above the 100th. Puppet replied with a smile, mentioning that this was his final task as the branch manager of the 10th floor. He expressed his intention to return as a climber to become stronger, setting the tower's pinnacle as his goal. Puppet believed Jin-Huk would bring significant changes to the tower, and with his skills from the 100th floor, he could become the best merchant. Jin-Huk admired Puppet's determination, noting that he was somewhat like Gold Lich in the past. Holding the case, Jin-Huk assured Puppet that once he obtained the necessary culinary skills, he would share his and Goldlich's plans. Puppet thanked Jin-Hook and left in a carriage. Jin-Hook and Vulcan watched Puppet's departure from the damaged wall. Vulcan commented on Puppet's departure, and Jin-Hook decided it was time to indulge. He sat down and expressed his intention to consume the crystals. Vulcan questioned if there was another reason, to which Jin-Hook explained that his gluttony trait would absorb the power of the things he ate. As he prepared to ingest the crystals, he asked Vulcan if he wasn't curious about the powers he would gain from consuming them.